Shalom Akayams. First I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Double honors to the elders of GMS, Elder Gabar, Elder Rakah, Elder Ramlab, Elder Taha, and double honors to the brothers on the highways and byways, bringing out the word in truth and spirit and sincerity, in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Shalom Zakayams. Okay, as you can see, today's edification is about 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and 12, breakdown. Now, I did a video of this several months ago, and I went over it again a few days ago, and there were some inaccuracies in the breakdown that I was given regarding the 8 feathers, the 8 feathers that was in 2nd Esdras, the book of 2nd Esdras. So what I decided to do was to correct that and to give you the breakdown again of 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and 12, but correct the mistake that I made regarding the 8 feathers that it speaks of, the 8 feathers, the 8 kings in 2nd Esdras, because when I first gave you the breakdown, it was in relation to the 8 kingdoms. The 7 kingdoms and the eight kingdoms, 7 and America came out of Britain. So you had Germania Minor, Germania Major, France, Spain, Britain, France, Spain, Britain. You had the French Empire. Yes, I said that. The British Empire, Germania Minor, Germania Major, and the other one was just quickly this. That I spoke about. These were because we was tying it to I was tying it to Revelation 17. The Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, Germania Minor, Germania Major, Britain. Those are the 7, and then the 8th was America. I was associating 2nd Esdras chapter 11 when it speaks about the 8 feathers in verse. Where is it? Verse 8. Just quickly bring out the verse where it shows you it here. Verse 11, 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 11, where it speaks about the contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. We're going to go through it. I was associating that with Revelations chapter 17 and verse 9, talking about the 7 heads and 7 mountains and the 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and 1 is not yet come. I was associating that prophecy in the book of Revelations 17 with the prophecies in 2nd Esdras chapter 11, and what I've come to realize is that 2nd Esdras chapter 11 is entirely talking about the Roman Empire, basically, because I was going back and forth thinking that at that point that it jumped to the future, but it was not talking about the 8 kingdoms coming to what we know as America as a reincarnation of the Roman Empire. It was still continually talking about ancient Rome. So that was the mistake I made. I was associating some of 2nd Esdras chapter 11 to the reincarnation of the Roman Empire, as well as the ancient Roman Empire, because the reincarnation of the Roman Empire is America today. But I was associating some of the verses in 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and 12 as to do with the reincarnation of the Roman Empire, America, when that's where I went off. All of 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and chapter 12 all of it is talking about ancient Rome. None of it is talking about America today. So that's where I went off. So what I decided to do, as you should do when you're in the truth, when you come across an inaccuracy, a mistake that you've made, when you're able to, through the Holy Spirit, work out what the scriptures was actually telling you, then it's time now for me now to put this right. So this is why I've decided to do this video today, to correct the mistake and to show you that all of 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and chapter 12 is talking about ancient Rome. None of it is talking about modern America, which is the reincarnation of the Roman Empire. Okay, so without further ado, let's get down to it. Let's go right into it. All right. So we're going to go to 2nd Esdras. There's something I found out, which made me realize where I went off. And it's a mistake that can be made, like I said, if you don't have good teachers and the Spirit is not dealing with you. Because I see it straight away, as I went over it again, I see it straight away where I went wrong. And through my teachers, I was able to confirm that what I saw and what I was shown is where I went wrong. I actually saw it, worked it out, looked back into history, did some more revision to look at these things and realize where I went wrong. So, like I said, today's breakdown is to go over 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and 12 and to correct the mistake I made on the video that I uploaded 3 or 4 months ago. So what I did in a good spirit as well was to take down that video because I don't want to mislead anybody else. I've removed that video from my site and I'm going to, as you see, this is going live today. We're going to go into 2nd Esdras chapter 11 and 12 to correct those mistakes and give you the full understanding. All right. So without further ado, let's start from the top. So we're in the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 11 verse 1. All right. It says, "Then I saw a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathers, wings, and 3 heads." All right. So those 12 feathered wings is the 12 emperors, the first 12 emperors, Caesars of the Roman Empire. All right. This we had all right. Where I went wrong was, like I said, was verse 11 is where I went wrong when I spoke about the 8 here. Where I said here, and I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. That's where I went wrong, because I was associating that with the 8 kingdoms: France, Germania Minor, Germania Major, Greece, Rome, the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, and America itself. That's where I went wrong. Everything else I'd given you in the earlier one that I did several months ago, was correct, but this is where I went wrong. So the best way to correct it for me was to take down that video completely and give you and redo it and give you the correct understanding. All right, that's the best way to do it, so that way there is no confusion in when we're showing you these breakdowns. So when it says here, "Then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathers, wings, and 3 heads." Now, those 12 feathered wings are the 12 emperors, the first 12 emperors, Caesars of the Roman Empire. All right? And the 3 heads is what is known as the first triumvirate, right? The first triumvirate of the Roman Empire. And I'll show you the difference between the 12 Caesars and what they call the first triumvirate. So first we'll look at the 12 Caesars, right? The 12 Caesars of the Roman Empire was this. Julius Caesar was the first one. All right? Julius Caesar was the first emperor of the Roman Empire. All right? Gaius Julius Caesar, known by nomen and cognomen as Julius Caesar, was a populist Roman dictator, politician, military general, and historian who played a critical role in the events that led up to the demise of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire. All right? He was the first Caesar. He ruled from... Julius Caesar ruled from... We'll quickly show you... I'll come back to you, Augustus, because we need to speak about Augustus a little bit as well. His predecessor, where is it? Okay. Julius Caesar ruled from up to 44 BC. I think it was from 53 BC he ruled. 6 years. 51 BC. 51 BC. Because after the death of Crassus was 53 BC. It was 51 BC. Okay, the Caesar found himself now about to cross Rubicon. leaving his province, leaving his arms. He began Caesar's civil war, victory war, put him in unrivaled position and power. 49 BC. That's when he took down Pompey. All right. So Julius Caesar ruled from 49 BC to 44 BC as the Caesar, as the first Caesar. All right. They don't show you here in this list here, but he was the first Caesar, and that's when he ruled from 49 BC to 44 BC. 5 years he ruled, right? Julius Caesar, after he took down Pompey, right? It's like Caesar when he crossed the river Rubin, the 30th Legion in 14 BC, leaving the province and illegally entering the Roman Italy under arms. Then began Caesar's civil war, and victory in the war put him in unrivaled position of power and influence. All right. So from 49 BC to 45, there you go. 49 BC to 44 BC. He was the first Roman emperor, all right? Caesar. That's why they all call themselves Caesars after him. It's like a title that was associated with the emperor of the Roman Empire. They all were called Caesars, all taken from his name, Julius Caesar, all right? So, I'm not sure, does it show the etymology of his actual name? Let me just quickly see. Does it show you? It's not important. You need to go back to that. I just want to see if it shows you. Caesar, Gaius Caesar. Okay, no dramas. Alright, so he was the first emperor. The second was, count them as we go along, Augustus. He ruled from, where is his reign? 27 BC to 14 AD. The first was Tiberius, from 14 AD to 37 AD. Right? The fourth was Caligula, 37 AD to 41 AD. The fifth was Claudius, 41 AD to 54 AD. The sixth was Nero, 54 AD to 68 AD. The seventh was Galba, 68 AD to 69 AD. The eighth was Otho, 69 AD to 69 AD. The ninth was Vitellius, 69 AD to 69 AD. The 10th was Vespasian, 69 AD to 79 AD. The 11th was Titus, 79 AD to 81 AD. All right. And the 12th was Domitian, 81 AD to 96 AD. All right. So this is the period that the book of First Esdras chapter 11 and chapter 12 is talking about. It's talking about from 96 AD, going all the way back to it should be 60 BC. If we see here, 60 BC. All right. It's talking about from that period, from 60 BC to 96 AD. This is the whole period of Second Esdras chapter 11 and 12. None of it is talking about America in the future. I had associated some of the scriptures in it to do with America today, the reincarnation of the Roman Empire, but I was wrong. Hence why we're doing this edification today, to put everything right and give you an understanding. So those are the 12 feathers. The 12 feathers are the 12 emperors, right? The 12 feathered wings. And the 3 heads. Now the 3 heads represent what the scholars call today, which was what they had back in Rome. They call today the First Triumvirate. That's what they call it, the First Triumvirate. The First Triumvirate was these 3 men here: Julius Caesar, Marcus Crassus, and Pompey. His name was Gaius Pompeius Magnus. So you see their names here: Gaius Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, him on the end, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, him in the middle. This was the first triumvirate that represented these. See, it was an informal alliance between 3 prominent Roman politicians. Those are the 3 that you see there on the screen right now. That's the first triumvirate. There were 2 triumvirates that existed in Rome. The first triumvirate was these 3, and the second triumvirate was between Augustus Octavia, Marcus Antony, and Marcus Lepidus. Yeah, that was the second triumvirate, because that happened. that one existed after Caesar was assassinated. Yeah, but this was the first triumvirate, right? Just so you understand, right? So, in the book of Esdras, when it says here, which had 12 wings and 3 heads, the 3 heads represents the first triumvirate, yeah, of these 3 here. Sorry? Of these 3 here. Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey. That's what it represented, all right? It says, and we'll talk about that as we go through, because that they are mentioned more through the scriptures. And I saw, and behold, she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her, and were gathered together. So when it said that she spread her wings over all the earth, that was the Roman Empire coming into its power, all right, under the first triumvirate. That's when Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus defeated all of these different. They had different wars. They went. I might even show you some of them here. See, thanks to the alliance of Caesar, thus received an extraordinary command over Gaul and Alicia for 5 years, so he could start his conquest of Gaul in 56 BC. The triumvirate was renewed at Lucca conference, in which the triumvirs agreed to share the Roman province between them. Caesar could keep Gaul for another 5 years, while Pompey received Hispania, because that's where he put down and conquered, and Crassus Syria, right? So this is what they were doing. This is when they were spreading their, when it says here, she spread her wings over all the earth. That was the beginning of the Roman Empire spreading its wings over all the earth. And when it says all the earth, it just means the known world at the time. It's not talking about the whole earth, you know, what we know today as the Americas and the Western Hemisphere, or Australia or New Zealand, right? It's talking about the known earth, right? Back then, which was all over in Europe and Asia, right? That was what they considered the known earth. And all the winds of the air blew on her. The winds of the air are the other nations that rose up against her. So when the Roman Empire was going on their conquests, right? So when the first triumvirate, they led the military leaders time, having nobly won wars against Sertorius in 80-72 BC, Lepidus 73-63 BC, the Cilician pirates. Although he won the war against Spartacus, Crassus was mostly known for his fabulous wealth, and he acquired through intense land speculation. But both Pompey and Crassus also had extensive patronage networks. The alliance was cemented with the marriage of Pompey and Caesar's daughter Julia, and so forth. So it's showing you about the. It might have been easier if I just went down to the wars down here. Convergence of interest. Censorship. Let's have a look. It looks. It tells you here. Events. Well, yeah, so it kind of speaks a bit down here. The governance from the ownership of Hispania, Spain, Portugal was awarded a triumph for his victories there. He was making preparations to celebrate this outside the city walls. He also wanted to be a candidate for the consulship for 59 BC. So it kind of tells you about it all here, all right? How the wars that they defeated, and how the Romans started to defeat all these other nations. So that's what it speaks of. When it says the winds of the air blew on her, it's talking about the other nations that the Romans put down and were gathered together, because they were gathered together to defeat them. And I beheld, and out of her feathers there grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. So the other contrary feathers are the other Roman emperors, right? The contrary feathers are the other Roman emperors out of the first 12 Caesars. That's what he's speaking about. He's talking about the 8, right? Which it mentions in verse 11, right? You'll see. That's what he's talking about, the other Caesars. It's not talking about the Caesars after this time, because the period of time we're talking about is from 60 BC to 96 AD. It's not talking about the Roman emperors that came after Domitian, like Nerva and Trajan. We're not talking about them or Hadrian. All the emperors and the feathers that we're speaking about come under the first 12 Roman emperors and Caesars. That is what it's all speaking of, all right? Just so you understand. And you'll see it more. It will start to make more sense to you as we go along. And I beheld, and out of her feathers grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. But her heads were at rest, right? The head in the midst was greater than the others, yet rested it with the residue. So the head in the midst that was greater than the others was who? Where are we? Caesar. The heads in the midst was Caesar, because he became greater than Crassus and Pompey. All right? These are the three heads that we spoke of at the beginning, but the heads in the midst that became greater than the other heads, the other two heads, was Julius Caesar. All right? Because remember, Julius Caesar, you had the death of Crassus ended the triumvirate and left Caesar and Pompey facing each other. So Crassus, he died first. All right? So it says here, Crassus died first, right? So it says, the death of Crassus ended the triumvirate, right? Because that broke up the bond that the three had and let Caesar and Pompey facing each other. Their relationship had already degraded after the death of Julia in 54 BC. Pompey then sided with the Optimates, the conservative faction opposed to the Populists, supported by Caesar, and actively fought Caesar in the Senate. In 49 BC, once the conquest of Gaul was completed, Caesar refused to release his legions and instead invaded Italy from the north by crossing the Rubicon with an army. The following civil war eventually led to Caesar's victory over Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, and the later assassination of the Ptolemaic Egypt, where he fled after the battle. In 44 BC, Caesar, well, you know, Caesar was the last one to die, was assassinated. So Caesar defeated this guy here, Pompey, in 49 BC. So Crassus died first. After Crassus died in battle, right? He went to battle, he died. He didn't necessarily die on the battlefield. He would have probably been brought back to his tent and he died in his bed or whatever. Crassus died out in the battlefield. Pompey was defeated by Caesar and was killed, and Caesar was the power. He was now the first Roman emperor. He was the Caesar now, all right? Where they all get their titles from. So when it says here, and I beheld out of her feathers there grew other country feathers, and they became little feathers and small, but her heads were at rest. The head in the midst were greater than the other, yet rested it with the residue. So the head in the midst was greater than the others. The other two that was at rest were the two that died. Crassus died in the battle. Pompey was killed by Caesar and his army, and then eventually, as you know, Caesar was, just like it says here, eventually, you know, Caesar was assassinated. In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated in Rome, and the following year his adopted son Octavian, later known as Augustus, formed the second triumvirate with Marcus Antonius and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, right? That was the second triumvirate, right? But these guys were the first triumvirate. So that's when it talks about the three heads. It's talking about those three there. So it says, moreover, I beheld, lo, the eagle flew from her feathers and reigned upon the earth and over them that dwelt therein. So that's the Roman Empire coming into its power. And I saw all the things under the heaven were subject unto her, and no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon earth, because they put down any rebellion that came up against the Roman Empire. People, you had rebellions that came up against them. Like I said, the different nations would try it on against the Romans, but the Romans would send out their legions and put them down. All right. And I beheld, and lo, the eagle rose upon her talons, and spake to the feathers, saying, watch not all at once, sleep everyone in his own place, and watch by course. That's talking about when it says watch not all at once, because they all ruled at different times. They didn't all rule at the same time. The only time you had you had the three Romans who were the heads of the different legions that ruled at once was the first triumvirate. This is the only time the three heads where they ruled at once. But there was, at that time, there was no one single out ruler. There was no actual Caesar that ruled the whole republic. This was the only time the first triumvirate and the second triumvirate were the times where they ruled together. All right? But Caesar was the first one to rule all by himself before he was killed, because he ruled from 49 BC to 44 BC. Then after he died, the second triumvirate was created, because no single person was able to take his place. All right? And in the second triumvirate, the one that takes over eventually becomes the Caesar is Octavian, who's known as Augustus Caesar, all right, who was Caesar's nephew, all right, adopted nephew, I believe. So let's go back to second Esdras. So it says that when it says there, watch not all at once, sleep everyone in his own place. So that's showing you the different emperors, Augustus first and Tiberius, Caligula, they all ruled in their different times and they all died. They all ruled and they all died. All right, so death, natural causes, death assassinated, natural causes, right, committed suicide. They all ruled at different times and died. As one died, the other one came in and ruled. As the other one died, so it's talking about the Roman emperors ruling one after the other. All right. It says, but let the heads be preserved for the last. All right. And I beheld, and lo, the voice went not out of her heads, but from the midst of her body. The midst of her body, once again, it's referring to, because after the heads, which you had the first triumvirate, was these three, and then the second heads, or the second triumvirate, would have been Octavia, Marcus, Antonius, which is Mark Antony, and Marcus, Lepidus, right? After that, the rulers came from the midst of the body. The midst of the body were now, back again, talking about the different Roman emperors during the reign that ruled right up until 96 AD, during their different times, all right? So let's go back. It says, and I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them, all right? So when it says their contrary feathers, they were contrary, different to the other rulers, all right? So 8 of these 12 were considered contrary feathers, different to 4 of the other emperors, all right, that ruled during that time, from Julius Caesar, the first Caesar, down to the last one during that period, from right to Domitian. So they said there were 8 of them that were different. Now, the only difference that I saw with the 8 of these is that 8 of these were assassinated, right? See, 1 natural causes, 2 natural causes there. We'll show you the ones. That's 1, 2. Where is it going? 3 natural causes, 4 natural causes, all right? So the other 8 were assassinated or killed. That's the only thing that I see that shows me that they were contrary to 4 of the emperors. That 8 of them were assassinated and 4 of them died of natural causes, all right? So when it says here, and I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, they were 8 of them. Like I said, 8 were assassinated, 4 died of natural causes. And I looked, and behold, on the right side there arose 1 feather, and reigned over all the earth. That 1 feather, once again, represents Julius Caesar. All right? Because out of the first triumvirate, the first triumvirate, right? Julius Caesar was the one that survived them. And he became the first Caesar, the first Roman emperor of Rome. So he is that 1 feather. And I numbered her contrary feathers, and I looked, and behold, on the right side there arose 1 feather and reigned over all the earth. Right? And so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned and had a great time. All right? So the next following that rose and stood up had a great time was who? Was this man here, Augustus. I will just show you from the list, innit? Augustus Caesar. Why? Because he ruled for 40 years. He had a great time. He was in office for 40 years and 7 months, nearly 41 years. Right? He was in office. Call it 41 years he reigned for. That's why it said he had a great time. All right? But we're going to show you something to show you that he actually came to power before 27 BC. All right? We'll show you in here. I'm going to quickly show you. Julius, after the second triumvirate. So the second triumvirate. That's the first triumvirate. The second triumvirate. Let me just see if it shows you here. The triumvirate existed for 2 to 5 terms, covering the period from 43 BC to 33 BC, unlike the first triumvirate. The second triumvirate was an official, legally established institution whose overwhelming power in Rome state was given to full legal sanction. Who's Imperius Mice? Is it here? It showed me. Hispania. Okay, war between Octavian and Antony, right? 40 BC. Yeah, okay. It says Octavia ally Gnaeus Licinius forestalled a conspiracy allegedly organized by Lepidus' son 31 BC. No, it's not here, it's here. It's here. Octavia illegally obtained Antony's will in 32 BC, right? And exposed it to the Republic. That's after he died. It promised substantial legacies to Antony's children by Cleopatra and left instructions for the shipping his body to Alexandria for burial, because Octavia had defeated Antony in war. All right, he was the last of the second triumphants who died. Right, who was defeated by Octavia. Octavia forces decisively defeated those of Antony and Cleopatra in the Battle of Actium in Greece in September 31 BC, chasing them to Egypt in 30 BC. Both Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide in Alexandria, and Octavia personally took control of Egypt and Alexandria, right? So that's around 30 BC. So even though it shows you here, he became emperor in 27 BC, he actually became the sole power in 30 BC. All right, around 31, is it 30 BC, 31 BC. So if we go here, where is it? Marcus Aurelius. So we got, where are we? Augustus. So it shows here. Yeah, 31 BC. It says the triumvirate was eventually torn apart by the competing ambitions of its members. Lepidus was driven into exile and stripped of his position. All right, so he went into exile, and then Antony committed suicide following his defeat at the Battle of Actium by Octavia in 31 BC. All right, so Octavia, who is Augustus Caesar, actually took control 31 BC, 4 years before it states here where he reigned 27 BC. So if you was to count 31 and 14, that's 45 years he ruled, than to say 41 years, because he became the sole power in 31 BC, all right? But was anointed emperor in 27 BC, just so you get an understanding, all right? So it says here, and so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned and had a great time. All right? That was Augustus. And it happened that when it rained, the end of it came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more. All right? Then there was a voice unto it that said, Hear thou that hast borne rule over the earth so long. This I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more, there shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither unto half thereof. So that's talking about Augustus. No one ruled as an emperor as long as Augustus. And this so it says, neither unto half thereof, not even to half of his time. Because the second emperor that came in after him, Tiberius, ruled for 22 years. So even though it says Augustus ruled for 40 years here, all right, it says his reign began in 27 BC. He actually came to power when? 31 BC. When it says here, Lepidus, these were part of the second triumvirate, all right? Marcus Lepidus and Mark Antony, all right? Along with Octavia. So when it says here, it says Lepidus was driven into exile and stripped of his position. So he was out of the picture now. He had no more power. And Antony committed suicide, you see, following his defeat in the Battle of Actium by Octavia in 31 BC. And this is why I say, if you count from 31 BC to 14 AD, when his rule came to an end, it's not 40 years, it's 45 years. So everything comes into place. So when the scripture says here, the prophecy says here, then I beheld, and lo, in the process of time, the feathers that followed stood upon thy right side, and they might rule also. And some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more. All right, because they did. The other feathers ruled one after the other, one Caesar after the other, as we showed you. For some of them were set up, but ruled not. All right. After this, I looked, and behold, the 12 feathers appeared no more, nor the 2 little feathers. All right. Did that go too far down? Yeah, it did. Sorry, it was up here, not today. It says, so went it with all the residue, one after another, one emperor after another. At that very one reigned, and then appeared no more. All right. This is where I wanted to go to. I've jumped down too far. Excuse me again. 2nd Esdras chapter 11 verse 17. It says, then shall none of them attain unto thy time, unto the time that Augustus ruled, neither unto half thereof, not even half of that time that he ruled, because the closest one that came to it was Tiberius, 22 years. So even though it says 40 years here, Augustus actually came into power when? 31 BC, once he defeated Antony. Lepidus, remember it says there Lepidus was driven, we just highlight this so you can see, Lepidus was driven into exile. So part of the second triumvirate, Lepidus was driven into exile, all right, and was stripped of his position, so he had no power. And then Antony committed suicide following his defeat by Augustus Octavia, the emperor there, in the battle of Actium by Octavia in 31 BC. So really, he became the sole ruler in 31 BC. From 31 BC to 14 AD is 45 years. So when the scripture says here, then shall none of them attain unto thy time, neither unto half thereof, absolutely spot on. The prophecy is right in front of your eyes, because the closest one was 22 years. Tiberius, none of the rest even got even close to that. Caligula ruled for 3 years. Claudius 13 years. Nero 13 years. Galba 7 months. Otto 3 months. Vitellius 8 months. Vespasian 9 years. Titus 2 years. And Domitian 15 years. So once again, the prophecy is showing you right clear and then. And remember, Esdras got this prophecy roughly 500 years. About 550 years before this took place. To 600 years. So we'd be conservative. We say 600 years before all of this took place, Ezra got the prophecy. And only Ezra got this prophecy. Because the Lord gave the prophets, different prophecies to do with the future, what was going to happen, how things were going to pan out. A lot of Jeremiah's prophecies were to do with ancient Babylon and modern Babylon, America. The same thing with Isaiah, ancient Babylon and modern Babylon. Daniel got the prophecies about the 4 great empires back then, the Persians, the Medes, the Greeks, the Babylonians, and the Romans, and also to do with the future, America, and so forth. So different prophets got different. Joel got the prophets to do with the destruction of America in the future and 70 AD. They got different prophets, but no one got this except Daniel. Daniel was the only one that was given this. Where did Daniel get this? Chapter 7, verse 7. Talking about the 4th beast. When it says there, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, excuse me, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that was before it, and it had 10 horns. That's talking about the Roman Empire. That beast that was diverse, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, had great iron teeth, and devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And it was diverse from all the beasts that came before it. That is talking about the Roman Empire, ancient Roman Empire. So Daniel also got prophecies to do with the ancient Roman Empire and America in the future. But Esdras chapter 11 and chapter 12 is specifically talking about ancient Rome. So it says here, so where was we? We was here. So it says, then arose the third and reigned as the others before and appeared no more also. All right. So the third was talking about the next emperor, the next Roman emperor. All right. That would have been Tiberius, because the second was Augustus, and the third was Tiberius. Remember, the first Roman emperor Caesar was Julius Caesar. That's why they all use that title, Caesar. So it says here, verse 19, so went it with all the residue, one after another, as everyone reigned, and then appeared no more. So went it like one, see what it says? So went it with all the residue, all the other feathers, one after another, as that everyone reigned, and then appeared no more. Once again, everyone reigned in their time. Augustus, 27 BC to 14 AD. Tiberius, 14 to 37. Caligula, 37 to 41. Claudius, 41 to 54. Nero, 54 to 68. Galba, 68 to 69. Otho, 69 to 69. Ventidius, 69 to 69. Vespasian, 69 to 79. Titus, 79 to 81. And Domitian, 81 to 96. So this is what that's talking about. Then so went it with all the residue, one after another, that everyone reigned, and then appeared no more. Then it says, then I beheld, and lo, in the process of time, the feathers that follow stood up upon the right side, that they might rule also. And some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more, like we just showed you. For some of them were set up, but ruled not. After this I looked, and behold, the 12 feathers appeared no more, nor the little feathers. All right? And there was no more upon the eagle's body, but 3 heads that rested, and 6 little wings. Then saw I also that 2 little feathers divided themselves from the 6, and remained under the head that was upon the right side, for the 4 continued in their place. And I beheld, and lo, the feathers that were under the wing thought to set up themselves and to have the rule. And I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more. The second was sooner away than the first. And I beheld, and lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign. And when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that were at rest, namely it was in the midst, for that was greater than the other 2 heads. And then I saw that the 2 other heads were joined with it. Right? So this is talking about the time of, I actually put it up here, the year of the 4 emperors. Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. These were the year of the 4 emperors. All right? So, but as you see, Vespasian ruled from 69 to 79. Vitellius, he ruled for 8 months. Otho, 3 months, right? See, from 15th of January to the 6th of April, 69 AD, right? Galba, Roman emperor from 68 to 69, the first emperor in the year of the 4 emperors. He was known as Lucius Livius Galba Orcello, right? Prior to taking the throne as a result of his adoption by his stepmother. So these were the 4 emperors, all right? Now, when it says here, and I beheld, and lo, the feathers that were under the wings sought to set up themselves and to have the rule. These were the feathers it's talking about, the 4 emperors. All right? Watch this. And I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more. All right? So the first one was Galba. He set up and shortly appeared no more. From 68. Let's show you on here. We're showing a list of Romans here. Sorry, we'll show you here. Galba, he ruled for 7 months and 7 days. That's the first one. This is talking about the year of the 4 emperors, all right? That we showed you here. It says, and the second was sooner away than the first. So the second emperor that came in was sooner away than the first. So let's have a look. The second one was Otho. He was sooner away than the first. Why? Because he only ruled for 3 months and 1 day. All right? So remember, we're talking about the year of the 4 emperors. Galba, Otho, Ventidius, and Vespasian. All right? But we're showing you here in the list so you can see clearly what we're talking about. So it says, and the second was sooner away than the first. All right? That's what we just showed you here. Otho, because he was only 3 months. The first one was 7 months. So he was sooner away than the first. He didn't last as long as the first emperor in the 4 emperors, the year of the 4 emperors. All right? And I beheld, and lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign. So the 2 that remained are who? The 2 that remain is Vitellius and Vespasian. All right? These 2 are gone. All right? Vitellius now, all right, is the next one. Those are the 2 that remain. It says here, verse 29, and when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that was at rest, namely, it that was in the midst, for that was greater than the 2 other heads. So the one, when it says, and when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that was at rest, namely, it was that it's that was in the midst, for that was greater than the other 2 heads. That's talking about here. This man here, Vespasian, is the reincarnation of this brother here. We're going to show you. Not him. Not him. He is the reincarnation of this man here, Julius Caesar, who died in 44 BC. All right? We're going to show you. When we spoke about earlier, when we spoke about up here, when we said, what was it, verse 2? When we said, and I saw, and behold, she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew, and I beheld out the feathers, they grew contrary feathers now, but her heads were at rest. The head in the midst was greater than, okay. When we said here, but her heads were at rest, the head in the midst was greater than the other, yet rested it with the residue. The head in the midst here was talking about in the midst of the 3 heads. The 3 heads was who? When we spoke about the, I've just got it up here, the first triumvirate. This is the second triumvirate. Let's see if it does this go back to it. The first triumvirate. The first triumvirate, remember, was Caesar, Crassus, Julius Caesar, Marcus Crassus, and Gnaeus Pompeius. Yeah, which are known as Pompey. All right. They had all died, remember. All right. He died first. Crassus died first. Pompey died second. Caesar killed him. And then Caesar was killed by the Roman Senate in 44 BC. Right? He was the head that we spoke of in the midst. When it says here, but her heads were at rest, and the head in the midst was greater than the other, yet rested it with the residue. Why was he greater than the other? Because he became the first Roman Caesar of the Roman Empire. That's what made him greater than the other heads. So when we go down here, and it speaks of, and it says here, what was we in verse? Here, verse 29. Yeah, here, verse 29. So when we said here, and when they so thought, behold, they awakened one of the heads, that one that was awakened, that's Caesar in the that's talking about Vespasian. It's talking about this man here, Vespasian. But Vespasian is Julius Caesar in the reincarnation. Remember, the Bible speaks about reincarnation. That's who he is. All right? So, it says here, verse 29, and when they so thought, behold, there awakened one of the heads that were at rest. As Caesar come back in the reincarnation at rest, as you know, he was died, gone back to the spirit, gone back to the Most High, but he was born again in the 3rd or 4th generation. You know that in the book of, it tells you about that. If we quickly go to, is it Exodus 34? I believe. It says 34 and 7. Keeping mercy for thousands and forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, upon the children's children, unto the 3rd and 4th generation. Why does the Most High talk about visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, upon the children's children, to the third and fourth generation? Because that's the earliest you can come back in the reincarnation, in the third and fourth generation of your bloodline. All right? So, just to show you here that the Bible speaks about reincarnation in the Bible. All right? So, here, the head that was at rest is talking about Julius Caesar that's come back. He is the last, he's come back as Vespasian. This is why it says, and it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. All right? Sorry. It says there, namely it that was in the midst, for that was greater than the two other heads. And then I saw that the two other heads were joined with it. And behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the two feathers under the wings that would have reigned. All right? But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression. And it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. All right? That's, once again, Julius Caesar. All right? And after this I beheld, and lo, the head that was in the midst suddenly appeared no more like the wings. All right? Because he was taken down by the Senate, Julius Caesar. But there remained the two heads, which also in like sort ruled upon the earth and over those that dwelt therein. And I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it that was upon the left side. All right? Then I heard, then I heard a voice which said unto me, look before thee and consider the thing that thou seest. And I beheld, and lo, as it was a roaring lion chased out of the wood. And I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle and said, remember the eagle is the Roman Empire, all right? The eagle is the Roman Empire. Ch11 to the Akayams on the comment board, yeah? That's who the Roman Empire is. That's the eagle. It says, hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts? Right? Who is that remains of the four beasts? We show you once again. Daniel chapter 7 verse 7. That's the fourth beast. It says here, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. That was its weaponry, its war. It was, remember, no one, the Romans, no one had ever seen an army force that was so militarized like the Romans, right? And that's what it came. Remember, and their swords were made out of iron and not brass, all right? It devoured and brake in pieces and stampeded the residue with the feet of it, because it devoured any nation that came up against it. It devoured them, all right? And made them become tribune to the Roman Empire, meaning they had to pay tithes to them every year. And it was diverse from all the beasts that was before it, because no one had seen nothing like the Roman Empire at that time. All right? So let's go back to 2nd Esdras. So it says here, and I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle, all right, and said, hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts? And we just read that, right? Whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them. So we just read that. This is the fourth beast, like it shows you here. When it talks about the four beasts, we'll quickly go up. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked away. That's talking about the Neo-Babylon Empire. And it lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it was raised up itself on one side, right? And it had 3 ribs in its mouth, as if the feet of it, they said, thus arise. That's talking about the Persian and the Medes Empire. After this I beheld, and another beast, like a leopard, which had upon his back its 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads and dominion was given unto it. That's talking about the Greek Empire, Alexander the Great. That's the leopard. And when it says has the 4 heads, those were his 4 generals after he died that took over his empire, right? That was Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lacedaemon, and I forget the other fourth general name, but those are Alexander's 4 generals, right? And then it says, after this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast. The 4th beast is what it speaks of here, the Roman Empire. When it says here, and the 4th came, art not thou it that remainest of the 4 beasts, whom I made to reign in the world, that the end of their times might come through them, all right? And the 4th came, which is the Roman Empire, the eagle, and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world. When it talks about the world, it just talks about the known world. The Roman Empire, if we look at the Roman Empire, it was talking about the known world back then. We're not talking about over there in the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, because that wasn't part of the known world back then. The known world back then is talking about here. This is the Roman Empire. This is what it conquered, all right? That's what this beast became. It became this beast that ruled all of these places where people lived, right, in the known world. This is the Roman Empire right here. So let's go back to 2nd Esdras. It says, art not thou he that remains of the 4 beasts who are made to reign over the world, that the end of their times might come through them? And the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, right? So it overcame all these different places that it conquered, that were controlled. Remember, the Greeks had controlled most of this, because after Alexander died, he had split his empire between his 4 generals. So Alexander's 4 generals, is their names I wanted to get. Ptolemy, Cassander, Seleucus. I say Antigonus is the other one, all right? And if we look at, you'll see where they ruled. You see? Literally most of the same places that the Romans conquered. See the Roman Empire? See Cyprus, Mediterranean Sea. Same place, Mediterranean Sea, Cyprus. All of these places is what these 4 generals ruled. Cassander, Lacedaemon, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. All right? So when it says here, and the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world. It's just talking about the known world, not the whole of the world, what we know today. All right? Just so you understand that. And over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression, so that long time they dwelt he upon the earth with deceit, as he did. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth. All right? That's the Roman Empire, because everywhere it conquered, it used its brute force and forced them to pay tribute to the actual Romans. Yeah. Trust me. So, let's read this comment. It says here, it's actually shaped like a beast. I'm reading off the comment board here. It's actually shaped like a beast. The land, check that out. I can see that the head and the feet. Yeah, I know what you mean. You could work out a sort of beast out of how it's all shaped. I can understand that. You can spiritually kind of see that. So, it says there, for the earth hast thou not judged with truth, right? Because the Romans deal in pure wickedness, as you know. There's no truth in the Romans. Just like the reincarnation of the Roman Empire today, the so-called Edomite Empire today, there's no truth in these so-called white people. Nothing different then than it is now. But this is talking about ancient Rome. Remember what I said at the beginning. We're talking about the time from 60 BC to 96 AD. It says, for thou hast afflicted the meek. The meek are the Israelites, all right? This is talking about now coming down to 70 AD, all right? They've afflicted the meek. Those are the children of Israel, the Israelite. The siege, this is talking about this here, the siege of Jerusalem. The first Jewish-Roman war, in which the Roman army captured the city of Jerusalem and destroyed both the city and its temple. The Roman army led by the future emperor Titus, right? With Tiberius Julius Alexander. Who is Titus? We'll show you right here. Titus is Vespasian's son. Here, Titus. He became the emperor in 79 AD. But at the time of the war, it was Vespasian who was the emperor, who was a Caesar, and his son Titus was the general that led that war. That speaks of here, the siege of Jerusalem. This man here was the general. His father was the emperor Vespasian. Vespasian was who? Was Julius Caesar in the reincarnation. Just so you understand, right? What we spoke about earlier. It says here, for thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, the Roman Empire, the Romans, right? And destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, talking about the Israelites, and cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. The siege of Jerusalem, because they destroyed everything. Remember it says there, they captured the city of Jerusalem and they destroyed both the city. See, it says here. It says, in which the Roman army captured the city of Jerusalem and destroyed both the city and its temple. The Roman army, led by the future Roman emperor, Titus, because at the time he was a general, his father was the emperor, Vespasian, with Tiberius Alexander as his second in command, besieged and conquered the city of Jerusalem, which had been controlled by Judean rebel factions since 66 AD, right? Following the Jerusalem riots of 66, when the Judean provisional government was formed in Jerusalem, all right? It said the siege of the city began on the 40th of April, 70 AD, 3 days before the beginning of the Passover that year, right? The siege lasted over 4 months, with the battle for the city lasting for close to another week after that. The siege ended on the 30th of August, 70 AD, with the burning and destruction of the second temple, and the Romans entered and sacked the lower city. All right? That's what they did. They took everything and destroyed everything. So when it says here, when it says, for thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, that's talking about 70 AD, what the Romans did to Jerusalem. Thou hast loved lies, destroyed thy dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, hast cast down the walls, that was the destruction of Jerusalem, of such as did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealings come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. The highest also has looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws. Right? It's all talking about the Roman army back then. Nor thy vain body. All right? Why? That all the earth may be refreshed, and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope. So when it says the she may hope, that's the Israelites. That's why back then, when they was under depression, when Yahushua was alive, they was always asked him, is the kingdom of heaven coming now? They were living by hope, and they were still living by hope after Yahushua died, right? And Yahushua warned them about the destruction of the temple and what was going to happen in 70 AD. He warned them. He told them that what was going to happen to the Israelites because they stopped following the Lord's commandments and statutes, right? It was part of their punishment. And that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her. And that's why it says hope for. It's not talking about being in the kingdom. If we was in the kingdom of heaven, we wouldn't have to hope for everything, because everything would be at a click of a finger. All right? Right now, we are living in hope. Just like it tells you in Romans 8 and 24. Just like then, they were living in hope because they were being distressed. It says, Romans 8 and 24, for we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man sees, why does he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. So they were still waiting for it. This is why it says, when it says that all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from thy violence, that she may hope for the judgment. So we were living in hope. We was under the siege. We was under the destruction of the Romans. So we was living in hope for the judgment and the mercy of him. Who's that? The mercy of Yahushua that made her. So this has all taken place during the siege of 70 AD and after 70 AD. But this whole period we're speaking of is from 60 BC to 70 AD. So we're going to quickly go through 12, and it's going to confirm, because 12 now confirms most of the stuff that we spoke about in Esdras chapter 11. So it says, and it came to pass, while the lion spake these words unto the eagle. The lion represents the Israelites, all right? The eagle represents the Romans, right? I saw, and behold, the head that remained, and the four wings appeared no more, and the two went unto it, and set themselves up to reign, and their kingdom was small and full and filled with uproar. And I saw, and behold, there appeared no more. The whole body of the eagle was burnt so that the earth was in great fear. Right? The eagle is talking about the Roman emperors. Right? The body of the eagle are the different Roman emperors. That's talking about the Roman emperors from, to clarify this again, from Julius Caesar, the first one, right, through to Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. It's talking about that period up until 96 AD. Right? This is what you must understand. It's not talking about any of the Roman emperors that came after. Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius, Pius, Lucius, Verus. It's not talking about them. Marcus Aurelius. It's not talking about those ones. It's talking about the first 12 Roman emperors. We're still dealing with 12 feathers, which are the first 12 Roman emperors of the Roman Empire, right? Don't want to get lost in the source, right? So when it says, and I saw, and behold, there appeared no more, that the whole body of the eagle was burnt, so that the earth was in great fear. Then awaked I out of the trouble and trance of my mind, and from great fear, and said unto my spirit, Lo, this hast thou done unto me, in that thou searchest out the ways of the highest. Lo, yet am I weary in my mind. This is Esdras now speaking to the angel that came to him and gave him this vision. All right. And very weak in my spirit, and little strength is in me. Right. For the great fear wherewith I was afflicted this night. Because Esdras did not understand what he was seeing. He did not understand this vision. This wasn't meant for him to understand. This was just meant for Esdras to write down. Because this was only going to be understood after all of that had taken place. After all that happened between 60 BC, right, from the time of the first triumvirate, from 60 BC, the first triumvirate that included Caesar, Marcus Crassus, right? Marcus Crassus and Gnaeus Pompeius is talking about from that time right up until 96 AD to when Domitian died, the last of those first 12 Roman emperors, all right? So Esdras would have understood this. Esdras is just writing this down. The only way we get the understanding is because all this has taken place. So now we can connect the dots. Just so you understand this. It says, Lo, this hast thou done unto me, in that thou searchest out the ways of the highest. It says, Lo, yet am I weary in my mind, and very weak in my spirit, and little strength is there in me, for the great fear with I was afflicted this night. That's the vision that he had. It totally, when you get those sort of visions, it must give you such a migraine in your head, right? While you're having them and after you've had them. That's why he said that. Wherewith he said that I was weary in my mind. It was hurting his mind, Esdras, when he was getting those visions and he was writing this down. Because remember the Lord said to him, get a pen and a book and write the visions that I'm going to give you down. It says, therefore will I now beseech the highest that he will comfort me unto the end. And I said, Lord, that bearest rule, if I have found grace before thy sight, and if I am justified with thee before many others, and if my prayer indeed be come up before thy face, comfort me and show me thy servant the interpretation and plain difference of this fearful vision, that thou mayest perfectly comfort my soul. So Esdras chapter 12 actually breaks down second Esdras chapter 11. But unless you understand chapter 12, what it's telling you about chapter 11, you won't be able to connect the dots. So we're going to show you everything I showed you in chapter 11. We're going to show you quite clearly in 2nd Esdras chapter 12. It says, for thou hast judged me worthy to show me the last times. And he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. The vision that we're speaking about is what we just went through in 2nd Esdras chapter 11. All right, just so you understand. It says, the eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which has been seen in the vision by thy brother Daniel. Right, so we go back there. The vision that they're talking about is what? Daniel 7 and 7. It's going to confirm it again to you. And after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stampeded the residue of the feet, and it was diverse from all the beasts that came before it. So, 2nd Esdras chapter 12, verse, where are we? Where was we? 11. Right? So it says here, the eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. That's the fourth beast in the book of Daniel chapter 7. All right? But it was not expounded unto him. It wasn't even expounded unto Daniel to understand who the fourth beast was, because Daniel lived around the same time as Esdras, remember. All right? Therefore, now I declare it unto thee. So that the angel is going to declare this vision unto him, and what he meant, what he spoke of in the book of Daniel. It says, behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon the earth, and it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. That kingdom is this kingdom here, the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire. All right? That's the kingdom that we're speaking of. It says, in the same shall 12 kings reign, one after another. Those 12 kings are these 12 Roman emperors. The first was Julius Caesar, who reigned from 49 BC to 44 BC. The second was Augustus, 27 to 14 AD. The third was Tiberius, right? 14 AD to 37 AD. Then Caligula, 37 to 41 AD. Claudius, 41 to 54 AD. Nero, 54 to 68 AD. All right? Galba, 68 to 69. Otho, 69 to 69. Ventidius, 69 to 69. Vespasian, which is the 10th, 69 to 79. Titus, which is the 11th Caesar, 79 to 81. And Domitian, which is the 12th Caesar. These are the 12 kings, 81 to 96 AD. That's why I go back when I say to you again, the period that we're talking about, the prophecies in the second book of Esdras, chapter 11 and 12, is talking about from 60 BC to 96 AD. It compasses all of that period. These are the 12 kings. These 12 kings are the 12 feathers that we spoke about in chapter 11. All right? Just so you understand that. I might just quickly bring up 1 second here. While we're here. Oops. We'll just continue linking the dots while we're going through this. So, the 12 feathers, which have the 12 feathers here, when it talks about the 12 feathers here, it says, then I saw a dream, and behold, they came out of the sea, which had 12 feathers. Those 12 feathers, let's just bring you over here, my friend. Those 12 feathers are the 12 kings that reign. Those are the emperors. Those are the Caesars that reign one after another, because they all reigned in different times. Whereof the second shall begin to reign, and shall have more time than any of the 12. The second one that reigned was who? Augustus. He reigned for 40 years, 41 years, right? But like I said, he actually came into power 31 BC. He was actually 45 years he ruled. But we're just saying because they gave him by the time he was crowned emperor, all right? He reigned more than any of the others, because the next closest one to him was Tiberius, 22 years. Caligula only reigned for 3 years. Claudius only reigned for 13 years. Nero only reigned for 13 years. Galba, 7 months. Otho, 3 months. This is the year of the 4 emperors, these guys. Ventidius, 8 months. Vespasian, 9 years. So these are the year of the 4 emperors, these 4. Titus, 2 years. Domitian, 15 years. So the second, just like it says here. Whoops. When it says here, it says, behold, it says, wherefore the second shall begin to reign, which is Augustus, Octavian, Augustus, Caesar, shall have more time than any of the 12. That's Octavian, Augustus, Caesar that's talking about. And this do the 12 wings signify which thou sawest. As for the voice which thou heardest speak, and that thou sawest not to go out from the heads, but from the midst of the body, therefore this is the interpretation. All right? It says that after that time of that kingdom there shall arise great strivings, and it shall stand in peril of failing. Nevertheless, it shall not then fall, but shall be restored again to its beginning. All right. So this is talking about, like I says, the Roman emperors, right? As whereas thou sawest the 8 small under feathers sticking to her wings, right? This is the interpretation. Those 8 under feathers are those 8 contrary, what it speaks about here in verse 11. Is it verse 11? Yes. And I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. That's what it's speaking of, right? So when it says here, and whereas thou sawest the 8 small under feathers sticking to her wings, this is the interpretation, right? So let's go up a bit. It says that in him there shall arise 8 kings. Those are your 8 emperors, whose time shall be but small, but their years swift, right? So that's talking about 8 emperors here, whose time is small but swift, all right? It's talking about the 8 emperors out of the 12, all right? After the time of Tiberius, all right? After Augustus, Tiberius, and Julius Caesar. It says, and 2 of them shall perish, the middle time approaching. 4 shall be kept until their end begin to approach, but 2 shall be kept unto the end. All right? And whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. All right? Remember, the 3 heads are who? The First Triumvirate was an informal alliance between 3 prominent Roman politicians: Gaius Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, and Marcus Licinius Crassus. Caesar, Crassus, Pompey. That's who it's speaking of. All right. So it says, and whereas thou sawest 3 heads, those are the 3 heads that we're speaking of. Those are the 3 heads that we spoke about here in verse 2. When it says, in verse 1, when it says 12 feathers, wings, and 3 heads. Those are the same 3 heads. All right. And whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. In the last days shall the Most High raise up 3 kingdoms, and renew many things therein. And they shall have the dominion of the earth, and of those that dwell therein, with much oppression above all those that were before them. Therefore are they called the heads of the eagle. All right? Because remember what we said. The Flavian dynasty. Where are we? The Flavian dynasty is the reincarnation. Vespasian is the reincarnation of Julius Caesar. Right? Which is part of the Flavian dynasty. All right? So, where are we here? It says, and whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. That's what we said. That's the first triumvirate. All right. In the last days shall the Most High raise up 3 kingdoms, and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth, and of those that dwell therein, with much oppression above all those that were before them. Therefore are they called the heads of the eagle. All right. For these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. All right. So that's talking about the 3 heads. The one that was in the midst of the 3 heads was Julius Caesar, right? It says, therefore are they called the heads of the eagle, right? They have come back. Julius Caesar's come back as Vespasian, right? Vespasian is the one that began the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Under his son, who was the general, who later became an emperor, was Titus. But it was Vespasian that led that siege. That siege against Jerusalem in 70 AD. So it says here, and whereas those that dwell therein, with much oppression above all those that were before them, therefore are they called the heads of the eagle. All right? It says, for these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. Because when it says accomplish his wickedness, it's talking about they've accomplished what Caesar had started. Caesar, remember, was the first one with the first triumvirate alongside Marcus Crassus and Pompey that went out to started to conquer most of these areas, all right, to bring under Roman rulership. They were the ones that began this conquering, all right, before the rest of the Caesars completed that and conquered all of these places. Because under Caesar, they only conquered was it Gaul? I think it's up here, Gaul, which is what we know as France today. They call Gaul. Crassus was in Syria, which would be up here. There is Syria. He only conquered Syria, and Pompeius had conquered, was it Cyanesia? It was only parts of what we see of this whole Roman Empire they had conquered at the time. So the rest of the Roman emperors, Caesars, completed it. This is why it says that. It says, whereas thou sawest the 3 years resting, this is the interpretation. In the last days the Most High shall raise up a kingdom and renew many things, and they shall have dominion of the earth, and those that dwell therein with much oppression above all those that were before them. Therefore they are called the heads of the eagle, for these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness. That was the rest of those 12 Caesars that accomplished the wickedness of the First Triumvirate. Right? They accomplished what these guys had started. Just so you understand. These guys started and they only conquered. Let's see if it shows you where they conquered here. Of the creation of alliance. Hispania, Spain was the other part. So Spain was part where they conquered, and let me see if it shows the other parts here. And that was Spain, Syria. Let's see, hold on. Maybe I've gone down too far. Yeah. Gaul was who Caesar conquered, and Alicia for 5 years. He was the conquest of Gaul. Hispania, Pompey received Hispania, which knows modern day Spain, and Syria was what Crassus conquered. You see? It says, just so you can see, the triumvirate was renewed in Lucius' conference, in which the triumvirs agreed to share the Roman provinces between them. Caesar could keep Gaul for 5 years, Pompey Hispania, and Crassus Syria. So when you look on the map, you'll see this will be Hispania here. This is Spain and Portugal, Hispania. Gaul is up here, France. That's what Caesar had. This is what we know as France, modern day France. That's Gaul. And Syria was here. So all of this, all the rest of this, all you see here, all of this here was not conquered by the Romans. But the rest of them completed their wickedness. This is why the scripture says, and those that dwell therein, which much are present above all those that were before them, therefore are they called the heads of the eagle. And it says here, for these are they, which are the Roman emperors, the rest of the 12 feathers, that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. They took control of what we see, the Roman emperor. All those places they conquered, all right? Just so you understand that. So they've now conquered all of the Roman Empire. Because before, they only had this part here, Hispania. This was Gaul and Syria. But the rest of the emperors conquered all of it. I mean, Italy was also all under Roman rule, but they conquered all of these places here. All the rest of it, all right? That's why it says he would accomplish his wickedness. They accomplished the wickedness of who? Of what these guys started. The First Triumvirate, which are the 3 heads. Caesar, Crassus, and Pompeius. All right? This is what they've accomplished. This is what the 12 feathers have accomplished. All right? The 12 feathers are who, once again, are these 12 Roman emperors. Domitian, Titus, Vespasian, Vitellius, Otho, Galba, Nero, Claudius, Caligula, Tiberius, Augustus, and Julius Caesar was the first feather. All right? So it says here, for the 2 shall remain, whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signified that one of them shall die upon his bed, and yet with pain. For the 2 that remain shall be slain with the sword. All right? So when it says here, this is once again, this now talks about the First Triumvirate. It says, for these that we go back up a verse here, it says, for these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. And it says, and whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signified that one of them shall die upon his bed, which was Crassus. He died in battle, and yet with pain. For the 2 that remain, which was Pompeius and Julius Caesar, shall be slain with the sword. Right? Let me show you quickly. The First Triumvirate, it shows you here. It says here, the death of Crassus ended the triumvirate, which is the First Triumvirate, and left Caesar and Pompey facing each other. Their relationship had already degraded, right, after the death of Julia. So, let me say, yeah, okay. Pompey then sided with Optimus, the conservative faction opposed to the Publius, supported by Caesar, and actively fought Caesar in the Senate. In 49 BC, Once the conquest of Gaul completed, Caesar refused to release the legions and instead invaded Italy from the north, crossing the Rubicon with his army. The following civil war eventually led to Caesar's victory over Pompeius at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, and the latter assassination in the Ptolemaic Egypt, which was the Ptolemy's empire that was taken over by the Romans, where he fled after the battle. In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated. So the first one to die was Crassus. All right, he died in battle. It says the latter embarked into an expedition against the Parthians to match Caesar's victories in Gaul, but died in a disastrous defeat of the Cairn in 53 BC. That's talking about Crassus. So Crassus was the first one to die, him, in battle. That's why it says he died in his bed. Then the next one to die was Pompeius, because it was Julius Caesar's army that went against Pompeius after Crassus died, defeated them, and then they got caught up with him in Egypt, in the Ptolemaic Egypt, where he fled after the battle, right? In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated. And in 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by who? By the Roman Senate. So when it says here, it says, and whereas thou sawest the great head appeared no more, it signified that one of them shall die upon his bed. That's talking about Marcus Crassus, and yet with pain, because he died in battle. For the two that remain, Caesar and Pompey, shall be slain with the sword, which they were. All right. Caesar slayed Pompey, and Caesar was slain by a sword by who? By the Roman Senate. They killed him on the steps of the Roman Senate. Right. They came out. There was Brutus and Brutus's brother and someone else that did it. For the sword of the one shall devour the other, because that was who? Whose sword of the one? But at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. The sword of the one that devoured the other was who? Julius Caesar. Caesar refused to release his legions, as it says there, and instead invaded Italy from the north of the crossing of the Rubicon with his army. The following civil war eventually led to Caesar's victory over Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, right? And the latter's assassination, right? And he was later assassinated in the Ptolemaic Egypt, right? Where he fled after the battle. So that was Caesar who killed Pompey there. And then at the bottom it says what? In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated. In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated. So it says here, it says, for the two that remain shall be slain with the sword. For the sword of one, which was Caesar, shall devour the other, which was Pompey. But the last shall he fall through the sword himself, because he was assassinated at the last by who? By the Roman Senate. And whereas thou sawest the two feathers under the wings passing over the head that is on the right side, it signified that these are they whom the highest has kept unto their end. This is the small kingdom and full of trouble, as thou sawest. All right. And the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the wood and roaring, and speaking to the eagle, that lion were the Israelites. They rebelled against Israel, right? And rebuking her for her unrighteousness with all the words which thou hast heard. This is the anointed, which represents the Israelites, which the highest has kept for them and for their wickedness unto the end. He shall reprove them and shall upbraid them with their cruelty. For he shall set them before him alive in judgment, and shall rebuke them and correct them. For the rest of my people shall he deliver with mercy, those that have been pressed upon my borders, and he shall make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment. Wherefore I have spoken unto thee from the beginning. That's talking about 70 AD. Those are the Israelites that fled Jerusalem after what? After the siege of Jerusalem. This is the dream that thou sawest, and these are the interpretations. Oops. Thou only hast been meet to know that this secret of the highest. Therefore write all these things that thou hast seen in a book, and hide them, and teach them to the wise of the people, whose hearts thou knowest may comprehend and keep these secrets. But wait thou here thyself yet 7 days more, that it may be showed thee whatsoever it pleases the highest to declare unto thee. And with that he went his way. And it came to pass, when all the people saw that the 7 days were past, and I came not again into the city, they gathered them all together from the least unto the greatest, and came unto me and said, and this is talking about the Israelites coming to seek out Esdras, because he had disappeared for 14 days at a time, sometimes 7 days, a week at a time, or 2 weeks at a time, to go into these deep meditations, to get these visions, to write these dreams down, and so forth and so on. So I don't think I need to go into it anymore, but I want to explain to you that the second book of Esdras, chapter 11 and chapter 12, is talking about the ancient Roman Empire. The 12 feathers are the 12 Roman emperors, all right? Are the 12 Roman emperors. The 12 kings are the 12 Roman emperors. When it talks about the 8 contrary feathers, those are the 8 Roman emperors out of the 12, all right? Like I said before, 8 of the 12 were assassinated. 4 of the 12 died of natural causes, but 8 of them were assassinated, all right? So it's all talking about these Roman emperors, from Julius Caesar, which is the first, Octavius Augustus, which is the second, down to the 12th Roman emperor, which is Domitian. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about modern America. It's not talking about Babylon the Great today. It's not talking about the reincarnation of the Roman Empire, America, the USA, and so on and so forth. It's talking about ancient Rome and the Roman emperors. That's what it's talking about. It's talking about the first 12 Roman emperors. It's not talking about the Roman emperors that came after Domitian, which are Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius, Pius, and Lucius Verus, and Marcus Aurelius. It's not talking about those. It's talking about the first 12 Roman emperors, right? And it's talking about also the first triumvirate. Those are the 3 heads. Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey are the 3 heads of the first triumvirate. That's what it's speaking about. And sometimes it mentions a little bit to do with the second triumvirate, which was Augustus Octavius Caesar, Marcus Lepidus, and Marcus Antonio, which we know as Mark Antony. That's the second triumvirate, right? But the 3 heads is talking about is the first triumvirate. The 12 feathers, the first 12 Roman emperors. And the first Roman emperor, Caesar, was Julius Caesar, right? The second one was Augustus Caesar. So I hope this was clear to the brothers and sisters. I pray that this was an edifying lessons to the Akiyams that tuned in live and those that may tune in later. I pray that it was an edifying lesson to the brothers and sisters out there. And like I said, I needed to put this up because I did a video several months ago which I needed to correct some things that I spoke about in there in this video. So I've taken down that original video that I put up several months ago, and I've redone this video to give you the proper full understanding of who the 3 heads were, right? All praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Shalom to the Akiyams out there, shalom to the brothers and sisters out there. All praise and glory to the Father and Son. Shalom, Akiyams.